So we are here at this gorgeous beach in San Diego, just out of a meeting for the kickoff of this year. And I'm so happy to introduce you guys to my great mentor, Mr. Jeff Walker, the creator of Product Launch Formula. Jeff, it's such a privilege to be here with you. Thank you for this time.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited about what's to come.
Yeah. Well, there's been quite a bit of talk about Product Launch Formula in the Hispanic world, Fórmula de Lanzamiento, and it's coming to the market. And I just thought, what a great opportunity to show people who the creator is, and talk about a little bit about the history of how this formula came up to, to be what it is now. But what are the origins of this formula, the beginnings?
Well, it's interesting because we're sitting on this beautiful beach in this sunny place, and we're relaxing, and we just had a great week. And but the beginnings were so humble. I could never have foresaw this moment. It's just, this journey has been amazing. It's been 25 years in total for me, or almost 25 years in total. And the Product Launch Formula has been 15, 16, 17 years in total. So when I started out, and much of this you've heard before because we're friends,
Yeah.
and we've spent a lot of time together, but when I started out, I was a stay-at-home dad. So I had 2 babies at that time. And when it started out, I think one of them was 5 and one was 3. And my wife was supporting the family. And I know people are going to be watching this all over the Spanish-speaking world, all over Latin America and Spain, all over. And everyone has different cultures and a different frame of reference. But in the United States here, where I lived, and this is in the mid-90s, it was very rare for a father to be the one staying home and raising the kids. But I had tried to have a career in the corporate world, and I was not a good fit. And I quit because it wasn't working for me. I wasn't having any success. And my wife was supporting the family. And so she would work every day. I was home with the children, taking care of the children. And but the problem is we needed to make more money. One salary was not enough. We were barely making ends meet. So I was really looking for some way to make money to try to support the family. And but I'd failed in that corporate career. And so I started publishing online. This is when the internet was just getting started, but I started publishing a newsletter, an email newsletter. And it was about the stock market. That was an area where I had a lot of knowledge. I didn't have any credentials. I wasn't a stockbroker or an investment advisor or anything like that. I had no credentials. It was just an area that I'd studied and I learned about. And so I started publishing a free newsletter via email, and it started very humbly, very, very humbly. Like the first email newsletter went out to 17 people. So that's where it could start. And it grew through word of mouth. And at one point I said, boy, I should try to sell something to these folks because we need money as a family. And so I had never sold anything in my life. I had never sold anything of mine, anything of anyone else. I had no expertise in sales or marketing. So I didn't know what to do. And I also felt uncomfortable asking for money. And I don't know, in the Spanish world, Spanish-speaking world, I don't know if some people might have that discomfort around asking for money or sales, but but I certainly did here. And so I came up with this process, and I didn't know I was inventing anything at the time. It was just desperation. But I created this process where I delivered a lot of value and value and value and value, so people would love me so much they would end up giving me money when I just asked for that. And it sounds silly now, but it actually worked. And I did that first launch. It was in early 1997.
Wow.
And that one did $1,650. And everyone has a different way of looking at money and numbers and things, but a lot of people, I think, in the States would think, well, that's okay, but it's not like a world-changing thing. But for me, it was an amazing, unbelievable, world-changing thing because, first of all, it was a lot of money for our family, and second is like I thought if I could do this once and people actually pay me for something that I created, then I could keep on doing it and it might get better. And that's what happened. 6 months later, or maybe it was 4 months, I don't know. It's been a long time. I did the next launch, and that one did $6,000, and then I did one that $8,000, and this took time. But a couple of years later, in 1998, I did one that did $34,000, and that was enough so Mary could quit her job and come home and help me with the business and be home with the kids and raise the kids. And it kept on going. Eventually, I think it was 2000, I did my first six-figure launch, made $106,000 in 7 days. And to think that I had come from, this first launch where I didn't know what I was doing to now I had a real business. Mary and I were working together, and $106,000 that enabled us to buy a new home. And it just kept on going from there. And then a few years later, I started to share what I was doing. I went to a marketing conference, and at that point I thought, probably everyone is doing these kinds of launches. But it turns out that no one was doing it. So I started sharing it with some friends, and eventually they convinced me to start to put it into a training and start teaching people how to do this. And that happened in 2005, was the first version of Product Launch Formula. And that launch, I made $600,000 in a single week. So it was crazy. And then I've gone on to do launches that have done $1 million in a day. I had one that did $1 million in an hour. But
that's just crazy.
But the important thing is these numbers seem crazy and they're hard to believe, and I get that, but it all started with that $1,650, and that was the most important launch, because then I realized this could work. And then when I started teaching people, then it was amazing, the markets that people, and the products, and the languages. People have done it around the world, in just about every language you could imagine, including Spanish.
Yes.
And my students and clients, I have tens of thousands of students now, and they have done over $1 billion. That's a billion with a B, $1 billion in results. And so it all started with that first launch. And that's what I always emphasize with people is, if some of these numbers seem hard to conceive of, they were hard for me to conceive of in 1996. But you put one foot in front of the other, and you go from a launch that does $1,650 to a launch that does $1 million in an hour to having students all over the world who have done $1 billion in sales. So it's been a journey that I could never have imagined when I started out, but and here we are sitting on the beach.
Yeah, it really is incredible. Well, I know that you know that I have a background in psychotherapy, and but I don't think I've ever told you this, because I've wondered. I've had time to wonder, how didn't I stumble upon this before? Why wasn't I able to create this, even with my background in psychology and knowing and understanding that the formula is built upon mental triggers and so many components that are about the human psyche and how it works. And then I think when I hear your story, it's very clear to me. Like you were in a situation where you didn't believe that people would buy, and that so you had to go through a process of okay, so what is it that I need to do to get these people that already, so they're subscribed to me, they clearly like my material, but what is it that I need to do to sort of convince them that this can change their lives, that this can change an aspect of their lives.
Right.
So it's kind of constructing a process based on on gaining that level of trust.
Yes.
So you were like very, very careful about getting that first offer positioned out there.
Yeah. I just tried to make them fall in love with me so that it would be a very soft ask when I asked for the money. And now it all seems like the product launch formula, that I had this master plan, but I didn't know what I was doing, but I did it over and over and over, and I would experiment. So the difference between that first launch for $1,650 and the second launch, there was one thing I learned that made that difference, just one thing. And you talked about the mental triggers.
Yeah.
And that's why this formula keeps on working over and over, is because it's based in psychology. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know it at the time. I was just trying to figure it out. But later I learned how to talk about the psychology. And there are these mental triggers that cause people to act, that create influence with people. And like one is authority. If we if we view someone as having authority, then we will be more likely to listen to them. And this launch process allows you to create that authority because you're delivering a lot of great content ahead of time. Like even this is great content because I'm about to tell people what that one thing is that changed that one from $1,650 to $6,000. It wasn't 4 times, but it was almost a 4-time result. And it was because I put a deadline on it. I created, and that deadline create what we call scarcity. So here's the start of the launch, and I said there's the end of the launch, and if you want this special offer, you have to act by this time. I didn't do that the first time. I just said here's the special offer, and left it open forever. And the second one, I said here's a special offer, and it ends here. And that launch was going along just like, the sales were tracking just like that first launch. But then in that last day, all of a sudden they went spiking through the roof. And I said, I just learned something. I need a deadline. I didn't know we called that trigger scarcity at the time, but about 4 months or whenever that second launch was, 4 months into this whole journey, I realized I needed scarcity. I needed a deadline. I needed a reason for people to act. And as I moved on, I started to find these additional triggers. And then when you add those into the launch, you just keep on getting better and better results.
Right. And this knowledge, it built over time. It became sort of a accumulation of assets that the formula has and that have been tested over hundreds and hundreds of different niches and markets and languages
in thousands, tens of thousands of launches.
Exactly.
And it's interesting because for the first, from when I started that first launch in early 1997 until 2005, I was doing it all by myself. And I figured out so much. But then in 2005, I came out with Product Launch Formula. I started teaching this to people, and they started doing these launches, and they started bringing their results back to me. And this was my learning was like this. And then as soon as I published and I had this community of students, it went like that.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm excited about, because that's what is here. This has been the Spanish-speaking market. It's like this.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And it is about to take off in ways that no one can imagine, because you're bringing the formula to the Spanish-speaking world. And the thing is like when it goes like that, it's good for everyone, because all of a sudden people are going to, most of our products, many of our products are training products, they're online education products. And once that online education really hits the mainstream in the Spanish-speaking world, it's going to explode like nothing we've seen before.
It becomes the way things are done, like we've seen in Brazil this happen.
In Brazil, because there's been a Portuguese language version of the formula for a number of years, and it was like this. They're doing great launches, and then it just took off like
Crazy.
that. And to be in front of that wave, we were sitting on the beach, there's not any waves, but to be in front of that wave and be carried by that wave is just, you can't imagine the power.
It's the best moment when it's about to, it's ride the wave when it's at its best.
Yes.
Yeah, and as another ocean saying goes, when the tide rises, all the boats rise,
Right.
and we've seen that happen in market after market,
Yep.
and it's certainly going to happen in the Hispanic market
Yes.
now.
Absolutely.
So Jeff, I'd like to ask you a question, because I know a lot of people, one of the big questions that they ask themselves is, why would I need to do this? And for me, it was kind of the same as for you.
Yeah.
You know, I started launching when I found you out of a big part of it was desperation. I really wanted to throw myself into this this passion of mine, serving my growing community of parents, and I had no idea how to sell them, and it literally saved me and changed my life forever. But at that moment, it was all about being able to make it work so that I could provide for my family and continue driving that mission.
Right.
And I know it was kind of the same for you.
For sure.
And I'd like for you to share a bit of what is it 15, 20 years later, what is it like for you now? What drives you to do this?
It's amazing for me now. We're sitting on the beach shooting a video. It's amazing. So, yeah, it's so $1,650 changed my family's fortunes. It changed everything for us, and so my business has grown. We tens of thousands of students, many millions of dollars of sales. I've got a team. And all that's great, but I kept my lifestyle pretty simple. So I'm in the fortunate place where I don't need to do anything ever again for the rest of my life for money.
Exactly.
Money is handled for the rest of my life. And now I do it for two reasons, really. One of them is impact. I love the impact I'm able to make. And we see a lot of people go through this transition where initially they just need money. And I always will remember where I was, that I needed money and how that changed my family. To be able to take care of our kids and feed the kids and send them to schools, and that changed everything. So I always want to honor for the people that I just need money. I need to support the family. But often what we'll see is once you get that, then it moves to really helping people. And I'm in the fortunate place of being able to help people who are helping others. So I helped you help so many parents become great parents. I've helped people who help people meditate. I've helped people who help people play golf. I've helped people who help people play tennis. And so the ability to make that impact and help the leaders and the teachers and the trainers I love that. I love that. And so that's a big thing that drives me. And the other thing that drives me is constantly growing, becoming a better business person, a better human, and being able to hang out with really cool people in really cool places like this.
Yeah.
I mean, we just had a few days, just like you said, kicking off this year and just having a meeting, and it was amazing to be able to sit in a place like this and just talk about how we're going to become great, have better businesses and have become better people and better parents and better friends and better spouses and better leaders for our clients and better leaders for our teams. Those are the things that drive me. It's just I'm addicted to constantly becoming better, and I'm addicted to constantly helping other people and making them better and letting them impact their people.
Amazing.
And so I'm curious, because you're about to embark on a great big journey here.
Yeah.
This is a big journey, and where you're at, I know I know what's going to happen. I know. I've been through it. I got to sit there and watch it happen in my life. I got to watch it happen in Portuguese in Brazil. So I know it's about to happen for you. It's a big journey. It's about to take off. So tell me, what's driving you to do this?
Well, you know, I remember that November 2014 when I first saw your videos, your content, and I was in a pretty dark place back then. It was hard to me to believe in anything, and I believed in you. I believed that you were telling the truth, and I knew in my heart that if I committed to it, launching would work, and it has changed everything for me. So when you experience that kind of change, I don't know. I can't sit on it and not share it. I've always been a bit of a social what's the word?
Activist.
Huh?
Activist?
Yeah, that's activista. I've always been driving change in whichever way I can. And I know a lot of people are like that. They feel like they need to contribute, that we can make this world better. And that's always been in me, you know, in however small ways. But when the formula came to my life and it changed from being able to help my community locally to impacting millions of people, I know there are so many people out there that can make a difference in so many people's lives. There are so many messages so many voices that need to come out, that I can't just sit on this. And it really is an honor to be able to now embark on this road and take your message, your creation, and bring it to the Hispanic market. Thank you for this opportunity, Jeff.
You're welcome. I'm looking forward to seeing you just transform in a big part of the world.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, this is Jeff Walker and Luis Carlos Flores from San Diego, from this beautiful beach in San Diego, hoping you have the best launch journey ever. See ya.
Goodbye, everyone.